For those that don't know me, I've been the CEO now for 2 years. We are proud shareholders in Guanajuato Silver. It's nice to see some familiar names. Not sure I like to be commented on so much in one presentation, but
only because you're good.
Yeah, I thought so. So Endeavour, we're mid-tier silver producer in Mexico. We are building our next mine. We've been in Mexico now 18 years. Our Guanaceví asset has been in operations for 18 years, epithermal vein system, underground mine. Bolanitos, also in the Guanajuato district, right beside, as you saw, a seven iron, not for James, but for most other people, away from the San Ignacio mine. It's been in operations for 17 years, and they are mature assets. Mature assets is a kind way of saying higher cost assets. We continue to operate them. We continue to have long mine lives there. But ultimately, we're transitioning into our Terronera project. And what Terronera is going to do for us is almost double our production, take us from 9 million ounces of silver equivalent produced per year to 16, and cut our cost profile almost in half. Terronera, it truly will be one of the jewels in the primaries, or in the silver peer space. There we are. This year, our guidance is 9 to 9.6 million silver equivalent ounces. We are going to produce around $10 to $11 for cash costs. We come in slightly above that for the first half of the year. All-in sustaining cost was guided to be $19 to $20. Halfway through the year, we guided that we'll be above that. We've come in at $21.16 for the first half of the year. Ultimately, spending $35 million on sustaining capital at Guanaceví and Bolanitos. $10 million on exploration to continue to advance projects in Mexico, including our Pizzeria project and our Parral project. But ultimately, the story this year is our development of Terronera, which we announced construction in early Q2 of this year. Q2's production was in line with guidance. We produced 2.3 million ounces of silver equivalents and 2.4 in Q1, so we're at 4.7, on track to hit our high range of guidance. Financials, the trends have continued. What we've seen in the space, inflation costs have sat there. The Mexican peso has appreciated 14% this year. If you look over the last 20 years, it's been on a depreciation to the US dollar. It's still on that trend, but we've got this blip. That's impacted our costs on a per ton basis and ultimately our cost metrics. Terronera at the end of Q2 is 30% complete. It's pretty early days. We are saying we are on time and budget. We've spent 31% of the project with 30% complete, but we're really going to know that when we get to 55-60% complete, which is going to be early next year. And we published an initial resource at Pizzeria, which is one of the world's largest undeveloped silver deposits. It's silver and zinc, 600 million ounces of silver, plus zinc and lead. The Guanaceví mine, I'll go through this relatively quickly. It's 80% silver, 20% gold. This is about 6 million silver equivalent ounces. It is our cash flow. We do have a partner in the area. Frisco owns a lot of concessions around us. In 2019, we made a discovery on their concessions, worked with them on a royalty regime. We do pay a 16% royalty when silver is over $25, between 20 and 25 where we're sitting today. We pay a 13% royalty. Ultimately, that's made Guanaceví a higher cost mine. We produced at $18 all-in sustaining costs for the first half of this year. Long mine life here. The grades have been phenomenal. Our expectations are that we'll be here 5 to 7 years with exploration potential after that. You can see on the longitudinal slide, we've been drilling underneath. You kind of see almost kind of a cutoff at Porvenir Dos. That's a mine that we mined out in 2014. Frisco owns the adjacent ground beside it. We've been drilling that with positive drill results. We expect to bring that in the mine plan over the next couple of years, and then continue to go to depth underneath the Porvenir Cuatro mine. Again, we own Porvenir Cuatro. The concessions, El Curso, which is what we call the El Curso mine, we're continuing to drill, and we expect to have drill results out probably by the end of this quarter for 2023's drill program. The Bolanitos mine, this is morphed into a gold mine. 80% of the revenue comes from gold, 20% comes from silver. A smaller asset for us now. It produces about 2.8 million silver equivalent ounces. It's in Guanajuato. It's pretty steady state. It's bumping along, making about $1 to $5 million of cash flow on an annualized basis. Again, 2 to 3 years of reserve life here, some exploration potential that remains in the district and surrounding us. But what we're out telling our shareholders about is our Terronera project. Again, this will almost double our production. So the first 4 years of production He'll do 7 million silver equivalent ounces, 60% of that's through silver, 40% through gold. Over the 10-year mine life we've defined in our feasibility study, it will average 6 million ounces of silver equivalents per year. We've invested over $30 million to get it into the feasibility stage and ultimately construction decision. We put in 3 different technical reports on resources, 3 different economic assessments before we put it into production. And this year we secured $120 million financing through SocGen and ING, which we expect to draw down ultimately in January. We're near signing and financial close on that, which is expected before this quarter is out. Again, formal construction happened earlier this year on getting that commitment from the banks. We're going to produce 3.3 million ounces of silver on a per annual basis and 33,000 ounces of gold over that 10 years. It's a high-grade mine, but what makes Terronera special is where it sits on the cost curve. Ultimately, the cash cost here in the feasibility study was $1.10. All-in sustaining costs over the 10 years, $3.29. If you use today's prices, that gets into a negative cash cost for negative dollars for cash costs, so all the gold pays for the silver, and all-in sustaining costs is about $1 per ounce of silver over the 10 years. Again, just some optimized plans. The feasibility study was 1,700 tons per day. With the inflationary costs that we saw come through the last couple of years, we looked at a 2,000 ton per day operation. That's what we're building. That was the footprint of the feasibility study anyways. It just comes down to more development up front. The new build cost is $230 million. That is fully financed through the debt and our balance sheet. And ultimately, like I say, we're about 30% complete to date. Where Terronera sits on the operating cost comparison amongst our peer group. Again, using today's prices, $2.15 puts us in the lowest decile from an all-in sustaining cost standpoint amongst our peer group. And from a cash cost standpoint, it's negative 20 cents. So again, gold pays for all the silver on an operating basis, puts us in the lowest quartile amongst our operating peers. So a real transition from being higher cost operating mines that produce about $20 all-in sustaining costs on a consolidated basis. When this goes into production at the end of 2024, consolidated cash costs come down into the $6 range, all-in sustaining costs around $12 on a consolidated basis. Timelines, it is a 21-month construction period. We have cleared off where the plant is. We're giving quarterly updates through our website of where we are on a construction standpoint. Expectation of commercial production for Q4 2024. We've got a phenomenal management team put in place. Don Gray joined us a couple years ago from the Continental Gold that got sold to Xinjiang. He'd built the Barraquita mine. Prior to that, he was in Guatemala building the Escobal mine with Tahoe Resources that now sits in Pan American's portfolio. He's done a great job building out our team. We have about 180 people in our development team, along with our contractors. Currently, we have just under 400 people on site. Our full camp's been completed. Ultimately, we're ramping up underground. The key to us is the development underground occurs on what we're looking for, about 3.5 meters per heading per day. We have 3 headings ongoing right now. The engineering's 70% complete. We've cleared off the area where the plant is. All the road construction's complete. Our whole mobile fleet's been on site for more than 8 months now. All the mill equipment was ordered last year, all arriving over the summer and into Q3 and Q4. So we're very far along. Through the end of Q2, we were $78 million spent and $145 million committed. Expectations by the end of the year is we'll have $190 million committed, probably upwards about $100 to $110 million spent on this project, lining up again to be ready for Q4 of 2024. There is significant exploration potential that remains at Terronera. There's a small vein about 1 kilometer away from Terronera called La Luz that's already in our mine plan. It's a high-grade gold vein. It's running about 8 grams gold. That's given us a kicker at the front end of the mine. But we've drilled out a number of different veins over the years and just basic exploration drilling that we haven't brought into the resource. There's about 5 veins we used to talk about. Different than Terronera. Terronera runs 5.5 meters thick. It's averaging 400 grams per ton over the life of the mine. These other veins are more gold veins, and they're running about 1.5 to 2 meters thick. But the expectations is we will be here for 15, 20, 25 years before it's all said and done. Obviously, Terronera is still open along strike and to depth, so is La Luz. And then lastly, I'll bring up Pitarrilla. Pitarrilla we acquired in 2022. We bought it from SSR for $70 million, $35 million in cash, $35 million in shares. This is one of the world's largest undeveloped silver deposits. In 2009, SSR, or Silver Standard at the time, put out a PFS indicating about 3,000 tons per day, producing 8 million ounces of silver plus lead and zinc, costing about $280 million. After 2008, silver ran, that was done at $11 silver. Silver ran up to $50. They reconceptualized the project from 2008 to 2012 when they put out a feasibility study. That feasibility study had a concept of an open pit mine at $25 silver. That's where they defined 600 million ounces of silver. That used to be historic. We brought that in as a current 43-101. But we are looking at this project as an underground operation similar to what they had looked at in 2009. Our plans this year was to push on and add it. That's 1.1 kilometers down. It's taken longer. There's been less ground conditions than what was expected after a fault. So that's taken us longer. We expect to be drilling into some feeder structures just to confirm some hypotheses. That will now occur in December, and ultimately we'll put this into an economic assessment for 2024. And ideally, we move our development team from the Terronera project that will be completed at the end of 2024 into Pitarrilla, which would ultimately bring us to what our goal is, to be a senior silver producer, and taking us from 16 million ounces of silver to conceptually 25 million ounces of silver with Pitarrilla. Here's just a quick timeline. It came out of SSR as they rationalized their portfolio. They've moved to gold over the last 10 years and ultimately had no other assets in Mexico. It fit our portfolio phenomenally. Again, just some quick slides here, and I'll touch on quickly. We also have an asset called Parral that we've been moving in parallel to Pitarrilla. It's in the state of Chihuahua. It's a smaller district. It's an old producing district. It produced about 4 million ounces of silver. There's plants in the area. There's mine development. Where we're drilling is under old workings. Ultimately, whether it's Pitarrilla or Parral, we want to make sure that we have another asset that we can bring to market after we're building Terronera. So it's been a very good story to tell. We've got lots going on. The key for us is the execution on Terronera over the next 15 months. Like I say, reshapes where Endeavour is from an operating profile. With that, there's 10 seconds left if anyone's got a question.
Any questions in the room? Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.